first part of the panel has been far the most important element in our fishery, not only volume-wise, but particularly economically. And although cod is only this part of this panel in volume today, it is 1/3. It is 1/3 of the economic value of the products derived from our ocean resources. So that is quite important for us to understand. And as I said, fishery is still backbone, of course, particularly after the crash of the bank system or the financial system. Fishery is very much so the backbone of the Icelandic economy, despite heavy industrial fishing for decades. Certainly the fishing pressure has been heavy, but nevertheless, the fish stocks are still there, which demonstrates, at least to some extent, that we have had some success in doing what we were supposed to do. I mean, we could definitely have done it better, that I will show that to you later, but it is quite an interesting notion, nevertheless. The second point, perhaps you should note, is that the last half a century or so, the nature of the exploitation has dramatically changed. From the demersal species, cod, haddock, saithe, and the red fish, these are the demersal fish species below this line here, towards pelagic fish species, smaller fish species that are caught in great quantities during a short period of time, seasonally, originally, this great quantity made the fishermen to produce meal or oil from these kind of products. So this is capelin and herring. Later on, it has also been blue whiting and mackerel. What has happened in the most recent years is that the pelagic species are also produced for human consumption to the largest degree, which is important economically, of course. So they may be increasing in economic importance simply because technology has made it possible to make greater value of these products, although they are caught in a very short period of time, in great quantity. So that's a nice development. But this is also an ecological question, whether it is good for the system to remove such a great quantity of prey species that are predated by many other important, economically valuable and important demersal stocks like cod. Also whales and birds are feeding on these small pelagics. So,
on that slide, is there any evidence that the steep drops, is there any evidence that's from overfishing?
The steep drops here?
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, not the capelin. This would be a natural fluctuation.
Yeah. Okay.
Simply because capelin, the capelin spore or physical biomass of capelin is based on 1 or at most 2 year classes, mainly 1 year class, and there are great variabilities in recruitments of natural origin in these species. I mean, cod, you're exploiting 10 year classes. So variability in year classes is not as dramatic, or does not generate dramatic changes in the stock size as it does for the short-lived species. So this was not due to overfishing, but this was, the herring collapse, was a combination of dramatic oceanic changes in the late or mid-1960s, as well as due to a weak stock that had been heavily over-harvested by the international fleet in the 1950s and 1960s. So it's a combination of factors. So this is an extremely rich ocean area. So It's not only that Icelanders are very clever, it is mainly because this is a rich fishing ground, therefore we have all these possibilities of getting so much fish out of the sea. And the main reason is the effects of the Gulf Stream and the upwelling of nutrients in the frontal zones where the cold current come from the north and the less so cold from the northeast. It is really an area where you have a lot of nutrients coming to the upper surface of the ocean column, and 24 hours of light during the summertime, which creates a wealth of biological material and biomass of small animals and large animals as well, including fish. So it is also quite a dramatic interaction of these cold and warm water currents that we follow very closely, because smaller environmental changes in this area can create dramatic results in the livelihood of the fish stocks. Most of the demersal fish stocks are spawning in this area. Say, for instance, cod. Perhaps 80% of the cod stock is spawning here, while the rest is spawning around the coast. And we have a coastal current that would bring the juvenile fish up to the nursery grounds north of Iceland. In severe cold years, we will have strong influence of the northern currents, or in some years you have weak Atlantic current, and this will create cold conditions in the north and quite miserable conditions for the juvenile fish on the nursery ground. So this can influence dramatically the year-class strength of the most important fish stocks in our waters. Okay, I see that I am not doing very well time-wise, but I said I would mention the requirements for a well-managed fishery. Of course, we need to know the biology of the resource. So we need to conduct serious scientific activity in order to obtain the information that is required. No less of importance is that the authorities have adopted a harvest strategy, a long-term harvest strategy, with management objectives and acceptable risk levels, because that is maybe this is actually the main failure of the world fisheries management. That authorities are fiddling with decisions based on pressure from local people, local communities, politicians, industries, different kinds of fishing fleets. And this fact that the politicians are under such pressure all the time makes decisions short-term and thin out necessary measures that are recommended by guys like me. So it is important to have such a long-term strategy in place. And this can be developed by scientists, and obviously scientists will have to be involved in that work. But it also requires participation by stakeholders, by the fishermen, by the trawler owners, and then it has to be adopted and accepted by authorities. So it's a process that needs to be conducted or carried out in order to get it in place, because everyone has to be happy with it if it's going to work. Everyone has to make an investment in it, understand it, accept it, and cooperate. So, but it's a fundamental